ready for a taste of something unexpected. Let's take a deep dive into the world of Uruguayan craft beer.
Interesting you should say that.
Oh,
Well, you know Uruguay for their incredible wines, right?
absolutely. Those tannic grapes are something else.
Bold.
Exactly. But turns out there's a whole other side to their drinking culture that's just starting to bubble up.
It's true. And a stark contrast to the industrial lagers that dominated for, well, over 150 years.
We're talking about craft beer in Uruguay.
A real hidden gem in the South American beer scene.
We've dug up some fascinating stuff for this. Deep dive, articles, blog posts, even folks on YouTube sharing their beer hunting adventures in Uruguay.
It's amazing what you find these days. Even real estate blogs mentioning a nearby brewery can offer a glimpse into this world.
Right. And then you have these in-depth articles like the one we found on Cervecería Malafama.
Ah, Malafama. Now there's a story for you.
They seem to embody this new wave of Uruguayan, brewing a family affair, 4 siblings, bucking their passion back to Montevideo after living abroad.
Passion, for sure. And a little bit of fate, too, you could say.
Oh, how so?
Their original plan for the brewery fell through at the last minute. Can you believe it?
No kidding. What did they do?
Well, their mother stepped in. Talk about a mother's intuition, right?
That's a man.
She found this warehouse in a prime location, basically left a note for the owner, and the rest is history.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a recurring theme with Uruguayan brewers, this resilience.
Definitely, because they face their fair share of
The
challenges.
scarcity of ingredients, especially hops, seem to be a big one.
Absolutely, and that's a hurdle for brewers anywhere, but particularly in Uruguay, where IPAs have really taken hold.
Which is interesting, right? Because there's that connection to their traditional drink, yerba mate, and that bitterness.
You've got it. It's like their palates are already primed for those hoppy flavors.
So how are brewers dealing with these limitations? I mean, you need hops for those IPAs.
Resourcefulness is key. We read about long waits for cans, for example. Yeah, and a reliance on imported malts to achieve those unique flavor profiles.
Makes you appreciate the ingenuity that goes into every glass.
It really does. And Malafama, they've got this secret weapon, their family bond.
Each sibling bringing their own expertise to the table.
Exactly. Sales, production, marketing, they've got all bases covered.
That's got to be a huge advantage, especially in those early days when you're just starting out.
Absolutely. And it's allowed them to be really experimental with their beers.
And speaking of experimental, one article mentioned fruited sours, barrel-aged lagers, even an imperial stout brewed with dulce de leche.
Now that's what I'm talking about, taking those familiar styles and giving them a distinctly Uruguayan twist.
Barrel-aged lagers, that's not something you see every day, is it?
Not at all. You usually associate barrel aging with heavier beers, like stouts or porters.
To impart those flavors from the wood.
Exactly. But with lagers, which are known for being crisp and clean, it adds a whole other dimension of complexity.
Fascinating. And what about those fruited sours? How do they fit into the Uruguayan context?
Well, sours are already known for their tartness, right? But adding fruit...
It's like a flavor explosion waiting to happen.
Right, and it's a chance for brewers to really showcase local ingredients and create something truly unique to Uruguay.
It's like they're creating a whole new vocabulary for what Uruguayan beer can be.
I like that. A new vocabulary.
And it's not just the beers themselves. Even their labels tell a story.
Yeah, you're talking about Malafama again.
Yeah. Apparently, their labels pay homage to Uruguay's indigenous roots.
It's true. Their logo, for instance, is a tribute to the Charrua people, the indigenous group of Uruguay.
So it's more than just a drink. It's an experience, a connection to their history.
Exactly. And Malafama is not the only one doing this, you know?
Oh, really?
Tell me more. There are other breweries embracing this blend of tradition and innovation in really interesting ways.
Like who? Give me some names.
Mm.
One that stands out is Orientales La Patria y la Birra, or OPB, located in the Mercado Ferrando in Montevideo.
You know, they started as a beer truck, right? What a cool way to bring craft beer to the people.
I read about them. They started as a beer truck.
Right.
What a cool way to bring craft beer to the people.
Exactly. It speaks to the entrepreneurial spirit of these brewers. Now they have a permanent spot in the market, offering a rotating selection of local brews. It's a must-visit for anyone looking to sample the variety of the Uruguayan craft beer scene.
Mercado Ferrando sounds like a blast. I imagine with all those food stalls and vendors, the atmosphere must be incredible.
Absolutely buzzing. It's a real feast for the senses. And speaking of variety, our sources also mentioned a brew pub called Matute with a whopping 40 beers on tap.
Wow, 40. That's impressive. They must have a beer for every palate. Are there any other spots you'd recommend checking out in Montevideo?
For a more laid-back beer garden vibe, patio shelter comes highly recommended. And these are just a few examples in Montevideo. Our research also turned up some gems in other parts of Uruguay, like Ruca in Maldonado, known for their summer ale, and Cervecería Barbot in Colonia del Sacramento, celebrating their 10-year anniversary.
10 years is quite a milestone, especially in a relatively new craft beer scene. It shows a real dedication to their craft. Speaking of dedication, we have to talk about some of these unique beers. What are some must-tries for someone new to Uruguayan craft beer?
Well, at OPB, they recommend trying the Bizarra Milkshake IPA, known for its creamy, decadent flavor. And if you're looking for a burst of citrus, they also have the Beer Bros Lemon Haze.
A milkshake IPA, that sounds intriguing. What exactly makes a milkshake IPA different from a regular IPA?
They're typically brewed with lactose, which is a type of sugar derived from milk. This gives them a creamier, sweeter body than your typical IPA, and they often feature fruity additions as well.
So it's like a dessert beer, but with that characteristic IPA bitterness.
Precisely. It's a fascinating example of how brewers are pushing boundaries and experimenting with flavor profiles. And if you're looking for something truly unique to Uruguay, OPB also recommends the Volcanica IPA Maracuya, brewed with passion fruit.
Passion fruit in an IPA. Now that's not something you see every day. And I imagine that Ruca Summer Ale is perfect for enjoying on those warm Uruguayan days.
Absolutely. And these are just a few examples from OPB. Each brewery has a diverse menu, and they're constantly experimenting with new ingredients and styles. For example, our research uncovered that Cervecería Malafama, another brewery in Montevideo, even offers a cannabis-infused IPA.
Wow, a cannabis IPA. That's next level.
Yeah.
It sounds like the Uruguayan craft beer scene is all about pushing boundaries and embracing new ideas.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the IPAs, they're also experimenting with golden ales, Scottish ales. There's something for every taste. One thing that stood out to me about Cervecería Malafama was that they offer a tasting board, so you can sample a variety of their beers and get a sense of their unique approach to brewing.
That's a great way for people to explore different flavors and find what they enjoy. It seems like the Uruguayan craft beer scene is just as much about community and shared experience as it is about the beer itself.
You're absolutely right. It's about creating a space where people can come together, connect with each other, and celebrate this exciting, evolving craft.
It reminds me of what we touched on earlier, that connection to their heritage. They're not just building breweries, they're building a culture around craft beer.
And that culture is reflected in the resilience of these brewers. Remember how we talked about the challenges they faced, especially during the pandemic?
Absolutely. Many breweries relied heavily on sales to restaurants and bars, so when those venues shut down, it had a huge impact.
It really tested their adaptability, but it's inspiring to see how many of them, like Malafama, with their early investment in canning and bottling facilities, were able to pivot and find new ways to connect with customers.
It really shows you what they're made of, that ability to adapt and overcome challenges.
It's in their DNA, I think. Just like those tannic grapes we talked about, they're built for tough conditions.
And that really comes through in their beers.
It's more than just the beer, though, isn't it? It's about capturing the spirit of Uruguay.
And have you ever noticed how many articles describe Uruguayans as relaxed, industrious, and less pretentious than most of the world?
Sounds about right.
And their craft beer scene seems to embody that perfectly.
Totally. They're not trying to be the next big thing. They're just doing their own thing.
And doing it incredibly well, I might add.
Couldn't agree more. It's inspiring to see a country really embrace this craft and make it their own.
We've gone from a place known for its wines to a hotspot for craft beer in just a few short years.
Talk about a glow up. But seriously, it's remarkable how quickly they've carved out their own niche.
So for someone listening to this, eager to dive into the world of Uruguayan craft beer, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
Come with an open mind. Be ready for those unexpected flavors, those unique brewing traditions.
And don't just go for the beer, go for the experience.
Exactly. Immerse yourself in the culture, the people, the passion that goes into every sip.
It's about savoring the journey, as they say.
Well said. To Uruguay and their incredible craft beer scene.
Cheers to that. And to everyone listening, until next time, keep exploring those hidden gems.